Hello again, rail fans. In this episode, we're going to gas up the truck and take a 3-day railfan trip across the South. We're going to start in Tampa, head up I-75 to Atlanta, where we'll overnight with family for free. Next morning, we'll be in Rome, Georgia. Morning after that, we'll be in Dalton, Georgia. And finally, we'll end up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where we'll railfan the whole day with some of the nicest folks you'll ever want to meet.
234 Street,
Rome, Georgia, north and west of Atlanta, about 70 miles, is an old cotton and textile town. Settled at the confluence of the Etowah and Oostenaula rivers, it's growing now as a manufacturing and technology center. I landed here on a bright morning in early May, poking my way around until I found the railroad track. This is Fox, a control point on the Atlanta North District and a turnout to the K Line, a spur running out of town to 3 major industries, a sawmill, paper mill, and a power plant. And there was some good news here. The power switches on the crossover and the turnout were reversed. Something was coming, and it was coming right here. The first catch was Norfolk Southern G34, a Georgia local out of Rome, working down towards Hiram, Georgia. With a single SD40-2 leading, the consist is why I love locals. Among the miscellaneous are 5 racks of fresh-cut trees, clearly big enough for lumber. Saw logs, as Mr. Cookie Williams used to call them. I guess they were headed for Georgia Pacific's Rome lumber mill. Right next door to that mill is International Paper's giant containerboard plant, which also gets cars. Afterward, I moved southwest on the line until I found this, a concrete slab parallel to the tracks. This is usually an artifact of an old railroad station, and that was the case here in Rome. The signal about half a mile to the north was a yellow over red, approach. But this was Norfolk Southern country. With a number board below the lights, that meant it was an automatic block signal, and the approach was probably its default indication, nothing in the block. The signal improved to an approach diverging, yellow over green, so I knew something was coming now, and I set up across the track on the embankment. And here came 65Q.
65Q approach diversion, Fox, 65Q.
He called this signal Fox. "65Q is ethanol empties off the FEC in Jacksonville, probably for Chicago. He wasn't strictly a unit train, though. 103 tanks up front, then some miscellaneous, more tanks, and more miscellaneous. When he got up to Fox Junction, where we started out this morning, he also called that signal Fox.
65Q diversion clear, Fox, 65Q.
The old depot is long gone, but an artifact of the old days remains. As the story goes, Brownie the depot dog was a stray who took up residence here at the East Rome train depot sometime in the 1930s. Over time, he learned the train schedules and would come out to the platform to welcome passengers when they arrived. Dining car crews even saved scraps of meat to feed Brownie when they came through. He was such a beloved dog that upon his death, locals created this headstone so that Brownie the depot dog would never be forgotten. He abides today under the shade of this big tree and next to the Southern's Atlanta to Chattanooga main line. About 4 miles to the south sits the community of Lindale. It's on the same NS Atlanta North District, and the traffic was still busy. Nearly as soon as I got out of the truck, a northbound got here. Mostly auto racks with the Norfolk Southern's Interstate Railroad Heritage engine running behind the leader. I had never even heard of the Interstate Railroad when NS debuted this unit. After doing a little reading, I learned it was a Virginia road started by a coal mining company, and even though they named it the Interstate, it never ran outside the state of Virginia. The Southern Railway bought it in 1960, and that's how the interstate became part of the eventual Norfolk Southern system. An old Georgia textile mill town, Lindale is now a picturesque residential community. And right at the corner of Maple Road and Old Rockmart Road stands a brand new train watching platform, just opened in June 2020. About 100 feet up the hill from the track, the Lindale platform is one of the nicest I've seen. It's got a radio scanner that seems to be on all the time, a nice view of the First Baptist Church, and a killer angle on the trains. I shot this rack and intermodal train right from the railing of the platform. After that, I drifted back northward into Rome, and crossing the tracks, there was a clear signal at Fox. So I pulled off and set up for whatever was coming.
373, clear Fox.
It was NS 373, daily mixed freight out of Brosnan Yard in Macon, Georgia, to DeButch Yard in Chattanooga. This guy had everything in the book in the consist. My thanks to Braden Thurber and his dad Jeff for introducing me to Lindale and Rome, Georgia. After 373, it was time to grab something for dinner and move up the road to the carpet capital of America. Next morning, I wake up in Dalton, Georgia. There are several major carpet and flooring factories here. Right downtown is where CSX's X-L&N line, the W&A subdivision to Chattanooga, comes in and crosses the Norfolk Southern's Atlanta North District to Chattanooga. It looks like something on the CSX is lined across the NS. Things are still pretty quiet in Dalton this Saturday morning, except for the Cremo Drive-In right next door to the tracks. They've been busy for over an hour already. The coffee or the food or both must be pretty good here. You can tell which signals are for which railroad by the backboards. Norfolk Southern usually has at least one signal that's got a flat bottom. CSX's are always oval or round. I do not know why NS signals have that unique shape. You can also tell CSX's former L&N territory by those mileposts. They often have that little roof on them. That was an L&N thing. At 06:58, the crossing bell started for the first train of the morning, a CSX northbound. I didn't have my scanner on the right road channel, so I missed his train symbol. I was listening to 32. I should have been on 84. This, after all, was L&N country. Unlike many other small southern towns, Dalton still has a large employment base with the carpet and fiber industry here, though the retail commerce all moved out of the downtown in the 70s. But the trend toward living in small towns is revitalizing Dalton, and things are coming back. Some kind of shindig is happening at the city's bandstand today, so I was lucky I got here early to get a parking spot. At about 0850, I hear somebody on the radio, but I couldn't make him out. Finally, I heard a horn north of town, so I pointed my camera in that direction. From the Gordon Street overpass, you get a better idea of the layout in Dalton. Looking northward, CSX comes in on the left side, the Norfolk Southern on the right. For trains coming south, the CSX signal for the Diamond is ahead on his right. The signal for the Southern is on his right. Looking southward on the other side of the bridge, we see how the CSX crosses the NS over to the east side and continues its parallel run south. The two competitors run side by side for about 5 miles through here. It must have been a marriage of convenience in the late 1800s between the Western and Atlantic, the W&A, and the Southern Railway, likely accounting to the mountainous geography through here. One of the things I love about the railroads is the way two companies will give different names to the exact same point on the earth. The NS calls the at-grade crossing Hare, while the CSX calls it Middle Dalton. This probably does avoid some confusion between the two roads. It's still early May and pretty chilly, but kudzu is already making its summertime march up embankments all over Georgia. The Gordon Street Bridge is a beautiful place to watch the whole train show in Dalton. It's a really old structure, but was built to last. With a 5-foot wide raised sidewalk on each side and only 2 lanes of traffic, it's a really safe place and has none of those horrible and, in my opinion, needless fences that have ruined so many other bridges for railfanning. At 1000 came down another southbound, Q581. That spray to the left is a crew pressure washing the city's parking garage. This telephoto shot shows again the layout in Dalton. CSX coming down on NS's western side, then a kind of a do-si-do over to the east side, but still headed in the same parallel direction. 5 miles to the south, the two lines go their separate ways. CSX to the east toward Cartersville, and NS to the west toward Rome and down to Austell. 581 originates in Nashville, Tennessee, works Wauhatchie Yard in Chattanooga, Howell Yard in Atlanta, and ends up in Greenwood, South Carolina. Across the tracks and next to the old freight depot sits the Southern Crescent City, one of 4 identical sleeper lounge cars built by Pullman for the Southern in 1949. After sitting for 40 years as an office south of town, it was donated to the city, restored, and now rests here as a museum piece and educational center. The old Southern Freight Depot is a visitor center and an excellent train watching spot. Beautifully renovated and fitted with an outside porch made of composite decking instead of wood planks. Quite a feat for someone on some committee, given that Georgia is among the top forestry-producing states in America. That deck provides a close-up vantage of both railroads looking to the east. What I thought was a pile of scrap material was actually a historical exhibit. It's believed the bent rail, found in a swamp just south of here, was actually one of Sherman's neckties. Union troops on their brutal march through Georgia were ordered by General Sherman to destroy all railroads and render the iron useless by heating it on a hot fire and bending it completely out of shape. Soldiers nicknamed the useless rails Sherman's neckties. It took folks in Georgia many generations to get over what Sherman did to this state. But the technique worked and helped bring the Civil War to an end. The 3-track yard over on the NS side is actually CSX's yard. On the 2019 WNA timetable, there's no mention of a yard here, only Dalton siding. And they appear to be pulling at least some of the yard tracks out. And take a look at this abnormality. For CSX to reach that siding, they have to cross the NS on the north end. That's why there are 2 diamonds at Dalton. This must have given dispatchers fits over the years when things here were much busier. The clear signal is for CSX Q582, northbound freight out of Hamlet, North Carolina. Along the trip, he works Greenwood, South Carolina, Lawrenceville, Georgia, Howell Yard, Atlanta, and Wauhatchie Yard, Chattanooga, on his way to Radnor Yard in Nashville, Tennessee.
If I'm not mistaken, guys, you're no longer coming north.
I'll tell you, that train watching platform down there is really nice. But for my money, the best spot in Dalton to just light down and watch trains is right here, the Gordon Street overpass. This is just awesome. This gives you a view in both directions, and probably a little hot on a summer day, but fortunately this is early spring here and still a little chilly, but whew, this is a crazy good spot here in Dalton, Georgia. The Gordon Street Bridge. So we didn't see a single Norfolk Southern train in Dalton. Well, that's how it happens sometimes. Next up, we're off to a place where there was nothing but NS trains all day. I got a couple of commercials here and we'll be right back. Next stop was Spartanburg, South Carolina, nicknamed the Hub City because of the 7 railroad lines that at one time converged on Spartanburg. There were 4 main railroads: the Southern, the Charleston and Western Carolina, the Piedmont and Northern, and the Clinchfield. Union Station was built by the Southern in the early 1900s and was used by the other lines for passenger service. It's only a fraction now of what it was then, but it will be our base camp for today. Just off the station property, behind a fence and through overgrowth, the CSX comes through on its C&WC from Yamasee, South Carolina, to the Clinchfield at its Spartanburg yard. It ducks under the Southern Railway through a tunnel. We would only see 1 train on this all day, and I'd miss that one. The main attraction is Norfolk Southern's Washington to New Orleans main line. I'm here just after 0700, and it didn't take long for the action to start. Around the curve came NS 222, northbound out of Inman Yard, Atlanta, to Satellite Yard, Charlotte, North Carolina, but pulling up and stopping just before he got to the train platform. Even though he had an approach at the Magnolia signal, I guessed he was being held for something coming south. And I wasn't the only one. Other rail fans were already showing up. 222 was waiting on 203, southbound intermodal traffic out of Rutherford, Pennsylvania, straight through to Inman Yard, Atlanta. Some of us were a little close to the tracks, but we quickly backed up and got away. It's still cool to me to catch piggyback trailers. One spine car had 6 smart-looking ABF trailers, then some double stacks, then another set of trailers, then a whole lot of double stacks. When 203 cleared, the dispatcher turned loose 222 and he pulled northward. 3 locomotives in the lead, just like everything we saw in Rome and Lindale. 3 refurbished AC-44 C6Ms that used to be Dash 9s, either 44s or 40s. By now, I'd moved up to the train watcher platform. I remembered this from when my friend Paul Knudsen and I stopped here on the way back from chasing the CSX Santa train on the Clinchfield a few years back. Anyway, this is the killer spot in Spartanburg. 222 was sliding out of town as quiet as a man who owed everybody money. I'm in Spartanburg at the invitation of the Hub City Railfanners, a group of folks who just met one another here at the Amtrak station on Saturday mornings. These guys all share the same love of trains and train stuff as me, and we all had a great day in store. 10:03, another northbound intermodal, this one with an ES-44DC leading 2 rebuilt AC-44 C6Ms. The Hub City Railfanners did kind of happen by accident, but it was Karen Sims and some others who really helped make it happen.
Well, it was around August of 2019. We were bringing our son Josh up here, who has autism, and we started talking to some of the kids that were up here, and the parents and we all decided, let's come up with a group. So we came up with a group. We decided we would meet every other weekend, and we've been doing that every other weekend for going on until now. So it'll be like 2 years. And then it was Josh and Nick were the first 2 Railfanners, and then we've gotten up to about 20 kids now.
And they do more than just shoot video and stills of the trains. They work on communication skills and build fellowship.
For guys, it's hard to strike up a conversation sometimes because some of them are shy. So you've got the kids that are shy, you've got the kids that are outgoing like me, and then you've got the ones that are just, don't talk at all, some of them. And they just want to be up here. And the kids, they love it. And they've learned to respect each other when they're videoing. And it amazes me how this group has grown. Green, we've got yellow, red. And then you are Sir.
At straight up noon, it was NS 153, mixed freight with a whole catalog of locomotive models. NS 153 was just getting started coming out of Pomona Yard in Greensboro, North Carolina. He would stop in Atlanta to work Chamblee Yard and continue on to Ernest Norris Yard in Irondale, Alabama. The Hub City gang gets a lot of railroad guidance from another adult leader, Dorian Anderson.
Basically, I'm just like the go-to guy for information on trains, like where they come from. And
Are you a big rail fan yourself?
Oh yes.
Been that way a while?
Born and raised.
I bring my grandson up here.
Sam Cohen is another one of the organizers of the Hub City Fanners.
He loves trains. And he comes up here, I bring him up here, and as we come up here, it seems like to me we get more and more added to it. Then I made a suggestion to the parents. I said, let us start a club for the young boys.
The camaraderie and fellowship the grown-ups talked about is evident with the Hub City Railfanners. This is a good group of kids. 14:21, in came NS-213, another one out of Rutherford, Pennsylvania to Inman Yard, Atlanta. The last train of the day was NS-265, Satellite Yard in Charlotte to Sheffield, Alabama, with stops in Greer, South Carolina and Austell, Georgia. 3 AC-44C-6Ms pulling. The third unit had only been out of the rebuild shop a month and a half. 265 is double stacks, and from my angle, it looked like they just fit under that old US 221 overpass. He looked to be moving about 25 miles an hour, and it took this beast 6.5 minutes to pass. A lot of commerce here behind 3 locomotives. The Hub City Railfanners have even gotten some local businesses to sponsor them to help out with some of the food and drinks on their meetup days, which I think is a very cool thing. What Miss Karen and Dorian and Papa Sam have all done is form a group out of these kids to let them know that they're not alone in their love of trains, and you're not either. So the next time you want to spend the day out there by the tracks, just hanging out watching the trains go by, shooting stills or shooting videos, don't think you're alone, because you're not. There's thousands of us who are out there doing the same thing, and we love the trains just as much as you do. And if you're ever in Spartanburg on one of their meetup days, swing by the depot downtown and hang out with the Hub City Railfanners. I guarantee you, you'll have a fantastic day. Please hit the like button if you like the video. Hit the little bell to subscribe and be notified next time I post a new video. Write your comments in the comments section down below. I try to read every one of those. And email me if you'd rather do that. railfandanny@gmail.com. I try to reply to all of those as well. So, let's plan to meet up again somewhere soon, somewhere out there on the high iron. And until we do, this is Danny Harmon, out.